Okay, so final touches campaigns as these people try to close their campaigns across the 24 stations that are yet to host these by-elections today. Tensions are arising, and in this episode we take a look at two occurrences that have occurred in the past 24 hours and one has occurred as recent as the past 3 hours in Mbeere North. Today, while Rigathi Gachagua was leaving a church service alongside Newton Karish, some youths interrupted him. Now let's start from the beginning. Two stories before the mirror. One is his name Leonard Muriuki Njeru or his name Leonard Wamuthende Njeru? That is the top aspirant for the UDA party in the Mbeere North by-election. But number two is as recent as 2 hours ago that now youths have infiltrated the Mbeere North space, and while Rigathi Gachagua was leaving a church service earlier today alongside Newton Karish, Mukunji Gitonga says individuals tried to stab them. This is the People's Mirror, and we will detail for you those two stories shortly. But if you're joining the People's Mirror for the first time, please hit the subscribe button. Now, on the first story, Rigathi Gachagua today was attending what is called the Final Touches campaign in this Mbeere North area, according to the IEBC regulations on campaigns of this particular by-election, ahead of the 4 days that are now remaining for this particular by-elections to be held. And so while talking to a church service in somewhere in Mbeere North, immediately he left that particular space of the church alongside Newton Karish, they were attacked. Now, Mukunji Gitonga informs us in a campaign that they are still holding towards the closure of those very campaigns that the youths tried to stab Newton Karish and Rigathi Gachagua. Now, this just shows you how tension is mounting in these particular areas that are set to hold these by-elections towards the closure of these hours, and how those particular tensions are now taking a different form. We just detailed what happened in Bungoma County a while ago, where also Governor Natembeya was interrupted. Now we are taking a look at Mbeere North incidents where now a life is targeted or knives are being, pulled out. Prior to this particular story being talked about, Gitonga Mukunji speech, prior to his speech being made, Honorable JB Muturi had also hinted earlier on today in these campaigns that 50 youths had since been deployed from somewhere in Kikuyu to Mbeere North with one aim: to interrupt the Mbeere North by-elections. And so he was giving a stern warning to the youths and also to the people that might have sent such youths, if such youths were sent, that if their intentions are to disrupt the particular by-election that are to be held in Mbeere North, then their intentions are misfounded. Honorable Gitonga Mukunji himself was also saying that he gives mandate now to the youth to protect the mothers on that election day and also to vote and protect their votes, so as not to have anyone coming to interrupt those particular votes on the D-Day. So now the IEBC timeline are closing fast, and so campaigns are coming to an end in this particular area. But with 4 days to this particular by-elections, tensions keep arising either in Kasipul or in Bungoma, now in Mbeere North, in Banisa and in Magarini. And we will keep detailing to you here, the People's Mirror, any development that occurs from those particular regions. Now let us get to the main story. Sometimes back, there was an outburst of a recognition of the name change of the current leading candidate for the UDA party in the Mbeere North by-election. His name previously was Leonard Muriuki Njeru, but he has since changed his name to Leo Wamuthende Njeru. The reasons for this change and the process of this change are and seems illegal, because he has gone through the deed poll process of converting his name from Leonard Muriuki Njeru to Leo Wamuthende Njeru. But the big question Kenyans are asking is why this change? And so in an outburst, people have been discussing really what went on in the change of name of this particular UDA top aspirant in this particular by-election. So before we detail further, let us just take a short look of UDA candidates that have been presented in this particular by-elections. We start with the Banisa constituency, where we detailed here at the People's Mirror's top channel, which is the Civic Lens, our primary channel, that there were allegations that the candidate who was being fronted by UDA in Banisa constituency was actually a foreigner. And so it turned out that he was not only a Kenyan citizen with a British dual citizenship, but it turned out that he was an actual Somali citizen who had the dual citizenship of the British and was only a resident in Kenya. Yet the IEBC party did nothing to actually verify his background and his position of the citizenship that he possesses before handing him over the ticket. And so the battle found itself in the courtrooms. Now we're watching in Mbeere North a gentleman whose past seems to carry skeletons of corruption. And also the UDA party seems to be the party that also gave this very gentleman, the ticket to run for this particular seat. Contestants of this same seat and the people of the United Opposition supporters, including MP for Tetu and also Mkunji Gitonga, have said that this could have been a deliberate move by the UDA party to have Mr. Leonard Wamuthende Njeru now vie in this particular position, fully aware of the issues or the skeletons that were tying his previous name. So let's delve into the name talk. Previously, he was called Leonard Muriuki Njeru. Then something happened. There was a tender of 643 million Kenyan shillings to build an oxygen plant in Kenya. This tender was bidded for by different companies, but it seems that it was awarded to Biomax Africa Limited. Now, the founder of Biomax Africa Limited is Mr. Leonard Muriuki Njeru. And so, after getting the tender and an amount of 643 million being transferred to the accounts of Biomax Africa Limited, 2 years later, the oxygen plant project remains a ghost work. And shortly after these funds were transferred to the tune of 643 million to the accounts of Biomax Africa Limited, it came to the realization of the EFCC that this particular company was actually a hoax, in the sense that the registration documents that were used to register this company were falsified. So it became a saga of 643 million that was not constructing an oxygen plant anymore, but that had been transferred to this particular company as a result of the tender that was awarded and had now gone to private hands. So it was after this construction gone sour, which was previously intended to produce 8,000 of liters per minute, or 8,000 liters of oxygen per minute, pardon me, and ended up not being made, that the EFCC began their probe on the personhood of one Leonard Muriuki Njeru. And so it turned out that Leonard Muriuki Njeru, who was one of the directors of this particular company, was now in the radar of the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission of Kenya. And so shortly after, he went through a deed poll via Gazette Notice number 13575 of 2025 and changed his name legally from Leonard Muriuki Njeru to Leonard Wamuthende Njeru. And he resurfaced in the political scene, contesting for the seat of Mbeere North as a member of parliament. And so in the whirlwind of it, people did not actually focus on who he was. But when the united opposition's attack on the government began, and the government in the retaliation sent the full force, including the governor of Embu County, Cecilia Mbarire, the senator of Embu County, Honorable Mundigi, the CS for Public Service, Geoffrey Ruku, and the deputy president himself, Kindiki Kithure, there was now focus on who was this candidate that called upon all the resources of the government around Embu to be supported. And so here's where the revelation becomes clear that this gentleman, Honorable or not so honorable Leonard Muriuki Njeru, who has now since shortened the name Leonard to Leo, done away with the name Muriuki and replaced it with Wamuthende and kept the Njeru name, was actually a person that was linked to previous saga of Biomax. So we don't know what's going to go on with the probe because the EACC is still on it, but it seems that this gentleman did not change his name to avert the probe because he was aware that this probe is going on. But it seems clearly that his main intention, or why he changed his name, was so as to come up with a new image in this particular competition of Mbeere North. So that at least even if you try to Google him or try to, find information about his real personhood, you do not find any information that is linking him to Biomax. You only find information that is now showing him as the preferred candidate for Mbeere North. And it's very interesting that even the name that is being used by the camp that is supporting him, that is the government camp, is not much of Njeru or Leonard, but it is Wamuthende. Wamuthende is what they sing. So I don't know whether they are aware that the Wamuthende name has not even lasted half a year legally, or whether they just chant the Wamuthende name thinking that it has been the name that Leonard Muriuki has been identifying with for all his life. And so there was a call, or there was calls by different members of parliament, including the member of parliament for Tetu constituency, and also Gitonga Mukunji, calling upon the IEBC to disqualify Njeru because he is facing corruption allegations before the EACC. Now, the EACC position is always very interesting because sometimes, and most times, conviction is the proof of guilt. So when you're being investigated, sometimes you still have leeway to vie for these particular positions and you might be cleared, because they use convicting you with corruption case as the basis to show that you are actually guilty of it. So right now, as people ride on the wave towards this particular D-Day of this particular by-election, Mr. Leo Wamuthende Njeru, the newborn name, can now contest in this particular elections because the IBC has not issued any confirmation or any communication to the contrary since his clearance. But now on his ethical standards, the people now have known who they are going to choose on the ballot on that day. And so the Mbeere North people have that choice on the election day to choose, knowing very well who they are choosing. And so when Leonard wins, he will win because the people decided that they wanted him, irrespective of whether or not he's facing these allegations. Though it's important to also note and say that the allegations itself or themselves do not deter him from actually the change of name, or rather the change of name, not the allegations itself. The change of name itself does not stop the EACC from continuing on their probe. And so if he is found guilty, then irrespective of whether he will be Leonard Wamuthende Njeru or Leonard Muriuki Njeru, the EACC will convict or acquit the personhood of who he is and not the name. Yeah, so that interesting development still shapes also this particular political space, putting in consideration and remembering very keenly that some time back, less than a week ago, there were also allegations that this very gentleman now on the spot, Wamuthende Njeru, did not have the voter card from Mbeere North. So it keeps, raising very interesting questions. He does not have the voter card from Mbeere North. He has a skeleton carrying corruption worth 643 million stolen from government coffers. Because if the oxygen plant is still a hoax until right now, and the tender was awarded by the government, then that's a government resource worth 643 stolen. Yeah, yet he's being fronted by the government party to vie for Mbeere North. So while the attacks are coming from the other camp and talks of youths infiltrating this particular election area from Kikuyu to the tune of 50 being advanced with the likes of the gentleman like JB Muturi, something that's very interesting about this candidate is that he is being pushed so much, yet he does not have the key things that would really make an individual be pushed that much. It just beats, it's very interesting to take a look at if you are thinking of it from this sense that Mbeere North people are going to have to vote someone who cannot plainly vote himself in that election because he does not have the voter card of that area. Even if the IBC does not have or has not stopped this particular position of this candidate this far, how will he even, show his supporters some comradeship on the voting day? What will he do? Will he walk into a polling station, or will he wait until the people have voted to celebrate his win? Because then he cannot vote for himself. He does not have the voter card of that area. Then additionally, he just changed his name less than 3 months ago, and now more revelations are coming that he changed his name because he had issues with the company that he was running previously to the tune of 643 million from the government as a result of a tender that was awarded to a company with falsified documents. So it shows that the company did not have the requisite resources to provide for the plant, yet the government had paid 643 million for that plant to be constructed. Ladies and gentlemen, that before the mirror is the realization, or rather the reflection, that is coming from Mbeere North, including and not limited to the conversation of attacks on Rigathi Gachagua and the conversations of change of name of Leonard Muriuki Njeru to Leonard Wamuthende Njeru.